Thank you for listening to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast, available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Stitcher. Also, please follow Matt's Movie Reviews on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Reddit, Instagram, Twitter, and Rumble. And of course, be sure to visit mattsmoviereviews.net for the latest reviews, top 10 lists, and more. Now, onto the show.
Do you think you'd be happier as a boy?
My mom would never allow it.
That's abuse.
Oh, you can't hear me cry. See my dreams all die from where you're standing on your own.
Anybody who's gone through this, it's the same thing.
Sweetie, please.
No. I need you to leave.
on.
Evie, no.
Where are you getting this from?
We're just masquerading.
When did parents become enemy number one?
This is all coming from the top, the major corporations, governments, politicians.
You have a pipeline that's also in the education system.
So today we're going to talk a bit about genders. We are here to support you.
I feel like I couldn't breathe. My aching body fell to the floor.
I've talked to hundreds, if not thousands of parents. Our stories are all the same.
They told my parents if I wasn't allowed to transition, I would be at risk of suicide.
This was a group where they basically gathered vulnerable children and taught them that it was us against them.
Would you rather have a dead daughter
Or a living son?
That question is asked over and over again, and therapists are trained to say that.
You caused my heart to bleed. You still owe me a reason. 'Cause I can't figure out why.
It's destroyed my health.
Looking back, it made me feel even more hopeless.
And then I felt down, I felt tired, I felt exhausted.
That half of my body shakes on its own uncontrollably.
I'll never be the same.
I was allowed to destroy my body.
They never talk about how much harm is being caused.
You know Joshua from Club? He says our closest family are often our worst enemies.
It's separating kids from their
The
parents.
state has decided that Evan should stay at a group home for now, for his safety.
You can't hear me cry. See my dreams all die from where you're standing on your own.
We miss you so much, Evie.
Leave him alone.
Like, this is the most important question. Why are they all doing this?
Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I am your host, Matthew Pejkovic, and this is episode number 540. Streaming now on Epoch TV is Gender Transformation, The Untold Realities, a docudrama that explores the factors surrounding the recent increase of young teens embracing transgenderism and how families have been torn apart by affirmation practices embraced by educators, medical practitioners, and the state. A film as heartbreaking as it is illuminating, Gender Transformation, The Untold Realities is a must-watch about an alarmingly relevant issue. And joining me now to talk about the documentary is the film's director, Tobias Elvhage. Tobias, how are you today?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Thank you.
Having watched, we're just talking off air just then about how I've seen a number of documentaries in regards to this incredibly just increasingly relevant issue that's happening right now in regards to affirmation policies, gender transformation, especially amongst kids and teens. And I'm just really curious, though. A lot of what I've been watching is from the lens of people in North America, USA, Canada. Yourself as a person from Sweden, I'm curious as to what issue does the gender transformation and affirmation policies, how does it affect the Swedish populace in any way? Is it something that's controversial there? It's something that's talked about a lot. And is it any different to what we see in North America? Are the policies the same? Do the politicians react the same way? Or is it different over there compared to what I've seen in America and Canada of late?
I think, Sweden is a very liberal country, and it's been just about the same situation as in, Canada and the US, like California even. But things started to change in 2019 for real. And that was after the Swedish state television, actually, they had a special report called something called like Mission to Investigate. And then they started to investigate, like it was like actually 4 different parts of it. So it started with the first episodes they called the trans train, and then the last one was called the trans children. And they all examine, what happens when you start to go on the puberty blockers, when you start to, take the cross hormones. But I think most of it was focused on the puberty blockers, actually. And they had some cases there where you actually had, like, one child, she started to go on the puberty blockers when she was 13, and then she kept going for 4 years. And, that's also malpractice in one way, because you're only supposed to be on them 2 years. But yeah, that was going on all over Sweden. It was quite common that, they could go on for longer, and no one even cared. But it showed that, when they investigated her and they saw that actually the bone density in her body had become so weak, she could hardly stand up for more than, 15 minutes. She got so much pain. She had this very weak skeleton. So for me to see that program, it was, wow, really eye-opening. And also, at that time when this last program of 4 was published, it made a huge change, actually, because they were actually also making interviews with doctors at the hospitals, and they were like asking them directly, like, what is this? How can you go on with this? And one of the doctors, he said immediately, like, yeah, this is a, chemical castration. This is crazy. I don't know why we're doing this. And all of this after the broadcast actually made a huge change in the system. So the National Board of Welfare and Health, they now made the restrictions. So in Sweden, it's only in very exceptional cases, that they call it, that that children are prescribed the puberty blockers. But most of the people, they have to wait until 18 or even 25. So yeah, that made a huge change. And now the Swedish system is much different. And I think also a lot of people here are really against, it being, forced upon young people. And I think most people agree that, well, they should wait until, at least 2025.
How did this documentary come to you? Was this something that you had in development and you came to the people at Epoch TV? Did they come to you? How did it all kind of come about that you managed to get this documentary together?
Yeah, so Epoch TV actually came to me, and they said they wanted ask me to if there's anything I want to do in regards to transgender. That this is a very hot topic today. They wanted to investigate it further. They already have some journalists looking into this, but they didn't mention so much on what kind of angle they wanted me to take. They just said that this is a hot topic and we have journalists covering these topics. Is this something you want to do? And I was like, well, it's not really my subject. I don't know so much about it. But then I did the research, and I found these documentaries on the Swedish television, and I found a lot of other sources, American sources, Swedish sources, also, from Netherlands, where it all started. And then become, it's like a rabbit hole. The more you go, into the subject, the more you understand. And it's why is this happening? It's a very complex, subject. And yeah, it's like, why is this happening? This is crazy. This is really like medical malpractice on a big scale. And it's not, how can people go along with this? So yeah, it really, all these questions made it so much more interesting. So then I said, yes, of course I want to do something.
So I have watched a whole bunch of different documentaries in regard to the same topic. What's different in regards to your film, Gender Transformation, is that there are dramatic recreations about this true life case. And it's incredibly heartbreaking. So Abigail Martinez is a mother, and she had a daughter named Yaeli, and Yaeli, I should say. And she was transing when she was a teenager. And, it ended in a very kind of tragic way. The thing about Abigail that's incredibly remarkable about her is that she recently testified against a bill in California. I don't know if you know this. In California, they have a bill where they're saying that if parents don't affirm their children's gender preferences, they can have their custody taken away from them, which I just think is incredibly devastating kind of stuff. And she testified against the bill, and she talked about her case, her daughter's story as presented in your movie. When it came to the part of doing dramatic recreations of Yaeli's life, what was that something that you wanted to do early on? Is that a stylistic choice that you want to do that to differentiate yourself from different documentaries? And what was it about Yaeli's case in particular, as opposed to the other cases that you touched on in your documentary, that really stood out for you, that you thought was really good, and not to be facetious in any way, really good material for the more dramatic recreation road?
Yeah, good question. I mean, we started the documentary as a regular documentary, I would say, and we started to do interviews with some cases that we found, especially in California. And then Abigail was one of those cases. And so we started to, make these in-depth interviews. And after doing the interview with Abigail, we were all kind of in shock because it was such a strong, we were, all of us were pretty much crying during the, in the end of the interview, and these special parts when you see speaking about the suicide, and she's speaking about how all the process is so, it's almost unreal, because it's like, how can this happen? And at the same time, through her feelings, through her story, you really understand this has happened, and this is wow. So I think that was the point when we knew this is going to be the main story, definitely. And we discussed it. And yeah, even the cameraman said, yeah, I also cried during that interview. So so we all were actually really on the same track. This is something we should have as a main story. And then we already had in mind that we should try to make reenactments or drama. And this reinforced the whole idea of the drama. And then we thought, yeah, we should really have this drama based on her story as, truthfully as possible.
Abigail's, the story of Abigail's daughter, and a lot of the other people who participated in the documentary are familiar in that a lot of times the parents of these children, of these teenagers, are kept in the dark. They're kept at a distance. Authority figures who we as parents put some sort of trust in, our teachers, doctors, even to a certain extent politicians, almost kind of like conspiring against the parents, affirming these children, these teenagers. And not only are they affirming them, but they are making it incredibly hard for parents in any way to be a part of the discussion. And if the parent raises any type of objections whatsoever, the type of emotional blackmail and also the very real legal repercussions against them is incredibly frustrating, is incredibly dangerous, I think. And for someone who's speaking as a parent myself, and I know you as a parent yourself, you can't help but think, geez, I hope for everything that nothing like that ever happened to my children and everything like that as well. And I think that's what makes this whole kind of like issue so relevant, is because not only is it happening to the children, but there is a clear effort to separate the parent from the child. And it almost seems like a forced kind of like custody takeover, where these authority figures have kind of like plucked the child away from the family and put them in a different kind of like almost state-run family. And not to sound too paranoid in the whole concept, but it's something that scares the living shit out of me. I don't know about you, Tobias.
It is. I mean, that's you point out the most scary thing, and that is that it's a really destruction of a family and separating the kids from the parents in a way that they feel like the parents are against them. They feel like, okay, they can't trust them anymore. I mean, that's the most fundamental trust you have in your life, and your role models are your parents. So think about it. If you're like 10, 11, 12 years old, and then suddenly your role models the ones who are supposed to, help you in life the most, they are suddenly, against you, and you are reinforced to believe they are, by teachers, by the system, that okay, they are actually against you because they don't understand, they are transphobic. And then what happens is that, because that age, if you get that from certain sources, like the teachers and like other parts of society, suddenly they haven't developed maybe the critical thinking to okay, but they will be like just formed like that. And that's what we see, that we had a really interesting interview with a psychiatrist, and she said, yeah, it really places this wedge, and then it becomes wider and wider. And that's what we want to do, that's what we saw also in this case with Abigail and her daughter, that from the beginning they had a really great relationship, and then step by step she's taken away from her family, a really caring family. That's what we felt with Abigail. She's the best mother you can think of, so caring, so much love. She just don't want her child to get hurt by this. She knew about it, and she didn't want them to get hurt by it. So yeah, this is the mechanism that's so hard to understand. How can we in the Western world start to implement this kind of mechanisms and destroy families? So one part of the documentary is also actually exploring that. What's the motive? How can we, how can the therapist start, how have they become a part of this? How and the doctors, how can they go along with this? And then the teachers. So exploring that it's not that everyone is conspiring, but just like you said, in the end it becomes like they are all working together against this. But I think they separate, like the therapist, it's like an environment of, oh yeah, we should really help these children, and this is the way to do it. We're saving lives. So they are also, kind of, sucked into that belief system of we are helping children. And that's the tricky part. And then it's and then you punish people who don't go along with it as well. So it's like, okay, you should do this because it's best for the children. And if you don't go along with it, then you're out. So that is really scary mechanisms, and that's why I think it's so important to see how it works together. Yeah.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by TeePublic. TeePublic is the world's largest marketplace for independent creators to sell their work on the highest quality merchandise. With over 1.2 million designs, TeePublic is sure to have something you will love. The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Amazon. The world's leading online store, Amazon is your first stop to buy a wide range of products at competitive prices with fast delivery times. Amazon is also a world-class entertainment hub that includes Prime Video, Audible, Twitch, Amazon Music, and more. Sign up with Amazon today and experience the best in online shopping and entertainment. Please support Matt's Movie Reviews on Patreon. Get access to exclusive content, request movie reviews and top 10 lists, and help support my work. Please click on the Patreon link in the description below. So you were mentioning before about how you watched those documentaries in your home of Sweden, and I've watched a lot of different documentaries as well. In your documentary, the latest being that, and a lot of times when I watch these documentaries, I'm shocked by the information that's presented. There's something that's always new that comes up, and something that is regularly touched upon in all these documentaries is that a lot of the times these teenagers or children that are transing, there are underlying issues with them that the therapies really don't even bother delving into because of whether it be personal practice in regards to affirmation policies or state-run laws or what have you. A couple of those issues, one of them is that a lot of these people, at least a lot of them interviewed in your documentary, had history of sexual abuse, which contributed a lot to their gender dysphoria or body dysphoria. Another one that was really kind of shocking to me was that some of these detransitioners spoke about how after detransitioning and going back into therapy that they were diagnosed as autistic. I have a son. My oldest son is autistic, and he was diagnosed as having autism back when he was like 6 or 7 years old. And I tell you what, just the thought that there are children out there who could be autistic, but they're not being taken care of, and they are given puberty blockers and hormone and all this other stuff is incredibly scary to me. I mean, is that something that you came across quite a bit as well? Is that a lot of the times the underlying issues is just not looked at, and if someone like a parent would, like Abigail, would try to press the therapist into looking into those issues even further, then they'll be seen more as a troublemaker as opposed to like a caring parent who just want to get to the bottom of what's going on with their child.
Yeah, definitely. That's, like you mentioned, autism. Yeah, that's what we now see as a big factor. Actually, they are working against the specifically the autists, and we have mothers who concentrate to help these autistic children so they don't get into the trans train or this path, because that's very, very common. Because when you're autistic, you feel a little bit different from the rest of the world. That's the innate nature of it. Sorry, I have to just. So you already feel that there's something different with you and the world. So you have a harder time maybe to connect with others. And then it's so easy to think, oh, it's because I'm in the wrong body, or you can buy into this, theory of, it's because I'm that's why I'm different, because I really should, change my gender. And you are led to that belief, and it's much easier, I think, to you want to find a solution because you feel already, different. So you want to find a solution to your problem why you're having that issue. And then you have this community that also is very welcoming to you. The LGBTQ, community is very welcoming. Like, oh, you're different. So here we love you for your difference. So you get so much celebration and so much love. So those factors all work together. That's the mechanism we see, and that's the sad part. But because then when they regret, at the moment they regret, they actually realize that this love was very conditional. Because if they suddenly start to question, oh, maybe I was wrong to change my gender, maybe I should change back, immediately they become like outcasts. So it's very tricky. I think those things work together. Like you have all these, underlying issues that make you feel like you don't belong to the world, or you feel like you're not happy, you're depressed or whatever, and you want to solve it. And then you find this community who are helping you to solve it. So all this work together. And also, like you mentioned, the therapists are actually discouraged to not go into the underlying issues as well. And that makes it, also hard to solve these underlying issues, because that's what we found with all these detransitioners. After they regret, then they naturally you want to find out, why did you do this? Why did you cause so much pain to yourself? And then you start to see, oh yeah, they actually, and that's the hopeful part of it, because I see that all these detransitioners, they start to search within themselves for the reasons. And then that's when they actually can become truly happy, because then you see, okay, oh yeah, it's because I have these traumas, and then maybe I can solve these traumas. I can work with forgiveness. I can work with, so then they start to work with themselves, and they are, that's what I see with Chloe Cole, for example. She was so happy. She was like, so much more happy than she was at that stage. And that's the hopeful thing, that they are finding, themselves again, and they are through working with themselves, working through these underlying issues. It's actually a very positive aspect, even it could be hard. And I think that's a message to all of us, that working with ourselves is something positive, and working with our bad sides, and working with underlying issues. We all have some kind of traumas maybe, so working with them can be a very good process, because whereas we might be unconsciously doing things that are not good for us in the long run.
You spoke. You mentioned the name Chloe Cole right there. She's one of a number of detransitioners who appear in your documentary. Abel Garcia, Kat Caddison as well in the documentary. Chloe is a remarkable young lady. She's been out there really kind of advocating against these affirmation policies and everything that's going on in these kind of gender transitions amongst some children and teenagers. When you meet Chloe and Abel and Kat, what is it that you take away in meeting from them? You mentioned just before you're really impressed with the way that they have worked on themselves and really woke up to the reality of the situation they were in, and that is very impressive in a lot of ways. Something that I think is incredibly impressive as well about them, and I don't know if you felt this way, is that despite a lot of vitriol put towards them and other people as well who are speaking out about this about their position, they had the strength to not only talk about their experiences, but they had the strength to push back against the narratives that a lot of people are pushing, and they are saying, we know affirmation policies are wrong. We know what is happening to these children and teens are wrong because we went through it, we survived it, and we're here to tell our tale. And I think that's a very impressive thing from these people, indeed.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's something that I also really was impressed by, is that they choose to put so much energy into actually talking about their experiences, and even showing their vulnerabilities, to show what happened to them, that they now have a hard time to pee, even to pee, when their genitals are atrophied, or they had all these issues, and they were so open about it. And it's all to help others. It's not like a selfish gain, I want to become famous or whatever. No, it's really they have been through this. They really want to help others to stop these atrocities, and they're not afraid of all this hate that they're meeting, because they're meeting a lot of hate. And that's also very impressive, that even though they have all this, they are hurt so much and they are so vulnerable, and they are still like, just go out there and just work on making a difference. That was, it was incredible.
You not only is the documentary now available on Epoch TV, you actually had a premiere in Manhattan on June 16th, so that was like a couple of weeks ago. When you had your premiere there, what was the reaction like to the documentary, and what type of reaction have you gotten since the gender transformation documentary has premiered online? Have you had other parents come towards you? Have you ever other detransitioners reach out towards you? I'm really curious to know what the reaction has been for you.
Yeah, so at the Manhattan Film Festival, actually, they received a lot of messages that they wanted them to they asked them, like, how can you show something so transphobic at the festival, and things like that. But they were actually they were answering in a very good way. They were just like, well, we really want to stand up for everyone's point of view, and we don't like to censor things, and they also said that in the beginning, before they showed the film, they just they were kind of I almost felt like they were proud that they were let's stand up together against censorship, and because this is what's going on. And there was another documentary that got censored by the ANC just some month ago or 2 months ago, and the same mechanism. They as soon as they see someone who's want to expose this, they go after them, and a lot of things like calling them transphobes. But yeah, and the other part of the question, you said if I had some people reaching out to me. Yeah, I had I had really good connection with the experts who were in the film, and they actually, one of the experts, she just recently told me in an email that she had so many people reaching out to her and just thanking us for making this documentary. So that's very positive. And also one of the mothers, she's also been Erin Friday. She's been very, very thankful and just, very happy that we have something that can really, show that this is not like a political issue. Actually, this is a pure human issue. It's like this is about our children's future, and if it grows even more, this is so destructive to the next generation. And so it's a good thing that we can actually put it together in a documentary that makes sense, that you can see all this for what it is, without trying to tell this is how I want you to think. No, it's all up to the viewer to get to your own understanding just by seeing how it plays out. So I think that's important to when we are clear on how it works on different planes, the psychology, on the and the money also. We also see how can this play out the way it does. Yeah, of course, it's because there's a lot of really wealthy, powerful people that they earn money from this, and it's LGBTQ organizations actually working. The same people controlling the LGBTQ organization are actually controlling also medical companies, and see all these connections, and then it's even more clear. So we wanted to have that part as well, to see, okay, there's always economical interest behind it, so we follow the money as well. And I think that's important. So the money never lies. If you see those connections, you can understand more clearly how our society can be so caught up in these theories. Okay, yeah, there's another reason behind it as well.
Yeah, well, as I said in my introduction, Gender Transformation, The Untold Realities, this is a documentary that's both illuminating and heartbreaking. It speaks to the mind and to the heart as well, because it's not only about the stories represented from the human aspect, it's also does so in a very incredibly clear and rational way. And I think sometimes when it comes to these kind of subjects in regards to the whole affirmation policies and gender transition stuff, people can get a little lost in a lot of stuff. And I think the way that it's presented, and I think the way that you presented Abigail's story and her story for her daughter is really effectively done. And I like very much that there were the dramatic recreations were there, because I think it's really good to see the story unfold in that way. It makes it all more powerful. And for everyone else listening, you can watch Gender Transformation, The Untold Realities at Epoch TV. Just go to epochtv.com. Go there. I think it costs only like $4 or something like that. You can watch the movie and then other movies as well. And I think it's an incredibly relevant film, because this issue, I think, is really starting to come to a collision. I think with both sides of the argument. And I think the more documentaries like this are presented, and the more that the truth is presented and the information, it's very clear to see which side is on the side of the right side here in regards to this issue. And I was going to say, Tobias, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for your documentary. You did incredibly great work here, and I truly appreciate the work you've done. And again, thank you for your time. And if you get another documentary or movie up in the future, please reach out. I'd love to talk to you again.
I will. Thank you so much, Matthew. And I will also like to really thank, the Epoch Times, because, it's not a one-man team, and they really, helped me through the whole process. We had a great team in Los Angeles together with Epoch Times, and they've been, also actively working now with the the strategy and how to reach out and everything. So it's been an incredible team there, and they are so passionate about having truthful, good documentaries, and also tradition. So that's their main focus: truth and tradition. And I think that's what we need in the future as well. That when you look at we have so much great things in our old culture and in our old traditions, and I've been making TV series about that as well. Cultural heritage and so much positivity in the music and the arts that can really help us. And I think that's something that if we find that way back, I think that will also help us, encourage us, and find strength to fight back on these bad things that are going on in society. Find hope.
Absolutely. The more documentaries like this are made, I think the better, and the more spotlight put on these issues. Absolutely. And I think Tobias, you did a great job in doing that. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. And take care and good luck.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content. Also, if you would like to request a review and support my work, please join my Patreon via the link in the description below.